I'm going to do a do-over. Not really sure what happened there. Here we go. I am Becca Lori Hector here. I am your host of Growing Gratitude, and I am here once again. We got a little blip, so I hope you're coming back and finding me here. And not really sure what happened. We're going to start all over again. Redo. So, welcome to Growing Gratitude. I'm Becca Lori Hector. I'm here, your host of Growing Gratitude. And every week I talk about the things that are challenging to be an autistic adult alive right now. And then we talk about how we motivate ourselves and kind of get through. And one of those ways is with gratitude. And I was a moment ago sharing with you that my emotional support animal, Walter, has decided to join me for Growing Gratitude today. And let's see if this time I cannot lose you. Here he is. Walter, do you want to say hello? Huh, bud? No, he's not saying hello. We had a good yawn before, so maybe I'll do something with that video. But in the meantime, here I am. And we're going to talk about some stuff today. And I want to begin by saying thank you to the folks that have made their way over to my Patreon. I am so excited to have you there. We are beginning our little community and we are doing new and different things over there. So I'm creating tools and sharing ideas and sharing little more personal, intimate things, I guess you want to say, about kind of what's going on in my life and what I'm thinking about and other work that I'm doing and all of those things. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me over on Patreon. Thank you for supporting my work. Thank you for wanting more of me and what I'm doing. So I'm excited. If you haven't had a chance to go over there, please head over to my Patreon and hang out and join us and get a hold of some of these newer tools that I'm kind of creating. Okay, enough of that. So I'm excited about that. And I also wanted to share with you, and this was going to be like my little segue for you guys, is that over on Patreon, one of the things that I'm doing is asking for you guys to send me in your questions. So once a week, I'm kind of doing a post and saying, hey, thank you, and kind of a gratitude roll for anybody who's new and all of those kind of things, and just a big, overwhelming little dose of gratitude. And then I am going to be asking for your questions. So you can go on to Patreon. And if you are a paid member, you can start putting your questions in with me weekly. And I will be answering them live here on Growing Gratitude, which I'm super excited about. So in order to kind of inaugurate that whole idea, right, I'm going to bring a question in for today's and kind of give you example of what I mean, right? Because this is the kind of thing that happens to me often when I'm out and about and talking about the things that I do talk about, right? People have questions and it's really fun to answer somebody's question, but it's even more fun when I answer somebody's question with other people around who also get to kind of explore whatever it is that we're talking about, right? So that's kind of my hope, is that you guys will make your way, that are watching YouTube, will say, hey, I want to do more of this. I have a question I want to hear Becca talk about. I'm going to go over and I'm going to join one of our levels of Patreon over there. And then once a week when she's asking, I'm going to throw a question in there and see if I can get my question answered, right? That's my whole game plan. Because sometimes I also get them from clients and sometimes they come in through email. And so this week, we are going to talk about one that came into my inbox from a very, very good friend who shall remain anonymous, but knows very well who they are. And it's a great question, and it's a perfect kind of first question for us to tackle here on Growing Gratitude. Now, I will continue to, of course, share with you guys the stuff that's going on in my life and all of those things, but and what I'm learning out there in the world and how I'm surviving. But I do want to encourage you guys to really get in it with me. And so I'm going to encourage you through this. And so this really good friend of mine, we often have I want to say, I almost want to say spiritual conversations, because we both really feel strongly about that piece in our lives. And but we have been very aligned for a very long time. And we talk about these very deep things, right? We don't tend to talk about like, how's your weather? That's not our conversation. And so this friend of mine was like, oh, I had a thought and I just wanted to share it with you. What do you think? Right. And I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. We had our little chit chat back. And I said, can I use this on Growing Gratitude? So here I am using it on Growing Gratitude because it is a great example of the kind of conversations I want more of in my life. And if I want more of them, what is the rule? I have to put more of it out there. So I'm saying, universe, and I'm saying to you guys, I want more deeper conversations. I want more of the good stuff. And we're going to start by answering your questions, answering the questions that come into my life, and also the questions that I have for you. So here's the first one, because I want you to be part of this conversation. So I have this very good friend. Very good friend writes to me and says, I had a thought about gratitude the other day. And first of all, I was so excited to have an email in my inbox that just said, "Hey, I had a thought." Yes. Like, yes. Because no, I need something is always in my inbox, right? And so this was a great email to get. I had a thought the other day about gratitude, no less. Come on, that's amazing. And I was wondering for your opinion on this. Do you think autistic people in particular may have a more challenging relationship with gratitude because it can be too much of an overwhelming emotion? What an epic thought, right? What an epic thought, because often we know that we feel things super deeply. Hey Bill, it's a great question, right? We know that we feel things so deeply and so big, right? Like when we feel big, right? That's why when we're in meltdown, it's big, right? Because everything's big. And so I thought, well, you know what? I have never myself hadn't thought about it this way, right? And I said, well, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but you know what? That's really a good possibility. Like it's such a fulfilling and positive. I can't even talk about it. Like Stamia. But it's just such a positive feeling when you're truly grateful for the things that you have in your life. When I sit here and I look over at Walter and I say to him, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have you in my life. I need you. Right. And you know the days I need you. And he's here. And I'm grateful for that all the time. Right. So and it's huge and it fills me up and all kinds of things. And so maybe that's the case. And so I said back to said friend, said friend, this is a genius moment. Thank you for sharing it with me, right? And here's why I thought we struggle with the gratitude, right? Oh, see, Deep Bill says deep gratitude triggers a cry thing for me, an overwhelmed cry, right? Like it's just such a big feeling. The tears come and like you like, right? I'm also like this, Bill. I have to say, thank you for sharing that because I'm like that too. I'm like a big emotions person. And so when I have a big positive emotion, I cry. Not the negative ones, but when I have big positive emotions, I cry. And that has been like, and not a controlled cry, like just, it's just happening. And and it's funny because people are like, "You're crying over a good thing?" Yes, and I don't cry over bad things usually, and so it's a very big dichotomy. But I say yes, deep gratitude does that, right? It's just such a if you truly give into the gratitude, it's just such a large emotion, right? And then is it so large that it can then keep us away from wanting more of it? And so that was my original was like, "Oh, I never thought about that. Let me digest that piece because it definitely feels like it could be true." And then, as we do as autistics, I said, "Let me share back with you why I think autistics struggle so much with gratitude." Right. And so I shared back and I said, "Here's what I think it is. I think that we struggle with gratitude because the concept of gratitude and truly understanding gratitude means, right, that you understand that no matter how bad a day you are having, no matter how shitty things are, right, that you can find something and many things usually when we look closely to actually be grateful for, right? And sometimes the things that are causing us trouble that we're sad we missed out on were actually things where we should be grateful we were saved from, right? That kind of thing. So, for example, right, the world right now is falling apart around us here in America. My job and what I do for a living and what I think about and my passion projects, everything and everyone I know has been touched by the awfulness that is going on right now, right? And it's my challenge to find the good right now. How do I find the good? What do I have to be grateful for that I can build on, right? And keep going with. Let's use Walter since he's here. I'm going to use him as a giant example. I wish I could show you guys. He's just so stretched out with his belly exposed and everything. He's such a cute little boy. Anyway, but I am having this, right? Terrible. It's going on in the world and everything. But in this moment, so grateful for my boo. I'm so grateful for my Walter boy, right? If I didn't have him to lean on when things got bad, right? If I didn't have him to help me mark my days so that I don't get lost and forget to eat, right? Or go to the bathroom. If I didn't have my guy, right? What would I be doing? How much worse would it be right now? So grateful that I've got him, right? And that's how gratitude works. And so it's this dichotomy of everything is so awful and here's a good thing, like that. And that makes our autistic brains like perversely crazy, right? Because it's really hard for our brains. Our brains like to do this thing instead. Our brains like to go, hey, this was a really, really crappy day. You know what? I'm having such a crappy day. It's a crappy week and it's a crappy month. It's a crappy life. It's crappy everything. You know what? Everything's crappy. F everything, right? That's what our brains do. We catastrophize. Our brains love to take us in a catastrophic direction, right? And so the idea that we could be having a bad day, but not having a bad life, right, is really hard for our brains to understand. But that is the lesson of gratitude in there, right? It's that dichotomy and kind of making that make sense, right? Of how can I be having all of these terrible things, but you want me to turn around and find something that's good in here? That's really hard, right? And for a really long time, I believed that to be the big BS in the sky, right? That you couldn't have those two things at once. But I learned it in a really odd way, right? I made my brain understand it in a really strange way, right? There's a quote from Brene Brown, and she says that you can be brave and afraid at the same time. And in there, I began to understand gratitude, right? Because if I can be brave, but also afraid at the same time, I can be disappointed, angry, sad, right? And grateful at the same time, right? There are still good things to be found. Yes, I'm not acknowledging the awfulness, right? But if I give in to the awfulness, it's like the nothing. It'll just pull me down, right? And so that's when I began to unwrap gratitude, right? Was that the concept of gratitude is about keeping your headspace, right, clear enough to be able to take care of yourself and not giving in, right, to all of that and fighting through it, right, and adding back in good, right? So I say back to said friend, right? This is what I thought it was, right? Is that I think we struggle so much because of our black and white thinking and how can things be bad but also good, right? At the same time, and right, the whole thing, bad day, bad life, and all of these things. And so said friend said back to me, goodness, I hadn't thought about that. But that makes a lot of sense too, right? Because the truth is what both my friend and I were thinking about was like, how do we have make others understand how um productive gratitude can be, right? How helpful a strategy of gratitude can be, right? Or an attitude of gratitude can be, right? How much that may be on some days the thing that gets you off the couch, right? Because some days I'm so low, right? There's nothing that's going to get me up except that I remember, ding, I have my boo, I have my little Walter here, right? And he needs to eat every day. And he needs to eat 3 times a day. And he needs to go out and go to the bathroom. And he needs and he needs and he needs, right? And I need to. My body needs to. And I can't just sit here on the couch, right? Because I'm grateful for him. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to take care of him, right? So I kind of uh, say to you, right? I pose this to you as a group, right? Whoever's watching now, whoever's watching after, right? Because I do read the comments, so please do leave me them. What is it that you think makes gratitude hard? What is it about that concept that makes it so difficult for us human beings, but especially autistics, right? To kind of grasp this concept and run with it. Because what I notice is that when we do grab it, that when it does kind of click in here and we find a way to make it work in our brains, we're better at it than anybody I've ever seen. Like, of course, there's rules around it, right? The rule is everything sucks, find the good thing, right? It's like any other problem we're trying to solve, right? And it has a very logical progression in there. And so it works really well for us once we can get our brains to kind of click over to it, right? To grasp that concept. So I would love, I mean, the way that I use and teach it now is through this idea of um, kind of this bad day, big life concept. That's how I teach it, right? Um, but now I feel like I need to incorporate in the idea that feeling gratitude is such a big emotion, right? That it can possibly, for some of you, maybe it does create anxiety, create overwhelm, as Bill described, right? Um, and a few other things, right? What are those other things that we feel through it? What, because it's such a big emotion when you do get it, right? So that's kind of where I was at with it. And I thought, this is where we need to begin, friends. This is the beginning conversation. This is the first question I pose to you guys, right? Is in your lives, if you have mastered, and no one truly ever masters, but if you have mastered some portion of gratitude and the attitude of gratitude, how did you get there? What was the thing that made you click over and how do you keep going with it, right? If you haven't, what are you struggling with? What is the barrier? What's the thinking that's keeping you from grasping it entirely? What am I not explaining? What could I be explaining? Right? All of those things. I want to know those things. And so for me, it was very much this black and white thinking and understanding that I could have a bad day without having a bad life. Right? And maybe for my friend, it was more about, wait, I don't want to feel that big. And so I'm going to avoid it a little bit. Right? And so what is it? It's a concept. Right? And if we all got it, like if everyone on the planet understood it and lived their lives through that, we'd all be a lot happier and we'd probably get a more things done. So there's something about it that the human brain doesn't want to like claw onto, right? That you have to kind of unravel and reconnect the synapse about. That's how it feels, right? So if you've done any of this work, I would love to hear about it from you guys. And if you have questions like this one or things that you want to talk about on here or hear me talk about or get it, be addressed, please head over to my Patreon. Join me over there. Head over once a week. I'll be asking you guys towards the end of the week for questions for today. And then I'll be asking them live right here, answering them rather live or addressing them. I don't want to say I'm answering them. That feels weird, right? Like I don't have all the answers to everything, but I will be addressing them from my point of view. And I'm hoping that begins a conversation for us, right? And if it doesn't work here, we'll have it over there on Patreon. But I want us to be having these real conversations here, the ones that kind of really stop us from getting where we want to go, right? Really grasping the concept of gratitude got me to my goals, right? It kept me going long enough to achieve my goals, and it keeps me on alignment all the time. So I'm curious what it does for you. I'm curious about so much stuff around this topic right now. But I'm glad to have you guys join me for it this week. And thank you so much, friend, who was one of my closest. Thank you so much for always sending me good thoughts and always thinking about the things that I'm thinking about so that we can kind of share them in that weird way. I do love it so much. And so I'm grateful for that. That's my giant gratitude today. I am grateful for my very small but mighty group of friends. I don't have a lot, admittedly so, a small handful of people that I would consider friends. And I'm grateful for them because those that are in that bubble bring me things like this, the things that I really want to talk about. So that's my giant gratitude for today. I'm excited. This stuff makes me excited. I'm excited to answer your questions. I'm excited for us to engage more. Please head over to Patreon. The link is down below in the description. You can also sign up for my newsletter down below. You can, I don't know, subscribe to this channel. You can do any number of things. Check out my course, blah, blah, blah. All of those promo items are down below in my description, but I am so excited to have you guys here. And with that, it is time. Putting on the sunglasses to remind you that today, as we close up gratitude, you must, please, 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 between now and next Monday, when I see you next, take care of your meat suit, right? Prioritize that headspace, right? And be open to all the glimmers, all the good things, all of those positives that keep you going, right? Because we know it's a world full of triggers, but the glimmers are out there too. And it's important to take note. So until next week, you guys, I'm Becca Lori Hector. I will see you out on the interwebs. Bye.